Have y'all ever heard the saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him about your plans? I've heard that a lot of times, but it didn't really hit like it just hit. A lot of y'all don't know. Well, nobody knows, but before I tell y'all that, right now I'm on pretty much the precipice of walking 100% in my purpose, like 100%. And I realize that a lot of people, when we have, when you understand what your purpose is, you'll create your idea of how it's going to happen and how you're going to get there. And we make that perfect little, it's a straight line from here to there. And I see now why they say, tell God your plans if you want to make them laugh. Because what it took for me to get here, from 19 years old to right now, if you told me then, I probably wouldn't have signed up for it. I think most of y'all don't know, like at 19, I was, as a teenager period, but mostly after I graduated high school, I was a hell young. I stayed in trouble. I was a party girl, doing drugs, party drugs, smoke weed all day, every day, drinking, fighting. Like, if y'all think about Krishan Rock, I was the first Krishan Rock. I was a certified crash out, fighting girls all day, every day, like in and out of the jail. Oh my God. Different days back then. But the way I realized what my purpose was and I surrendered to it was because I had been in so much trouble. And I was now sitting, at 19, I was sitting in jail. And I was facing a lot of charges, like serious charges. I was facing about like assault with a deadly weapon. I bust a girl in the head with a bottle, fighting the police. I had real charges. Crazy. And my parents had given up on me, like, not given up, but they just stopped helping me because I was always in and out. They wasted money on attorneys. I wasn't showing up at court when they bailed me out, all kind of little crazy stuff. And so they just was like, she's going to have to figure it out on her own. Like, I had gotten to the point where they gave up on me. Like, that's how bad it had gotten. Y'all know you don't give up on your kids, but that's how bad it had gotten. And a lot of y'all don't know, I'm a pastor's kid. So my dad's still a pastor right now to this day, full time. So I knew to act right, but at this time I was just caught up in a lifestyle, and it caught up with me. And when I was in jail and I was facing that time, I didn't have an attorney. Shit was real. It was gonna get real. This is where I re-met God for myself, instead of just in religion, instead of going to church every day, instead of what your parents tell you. I met God for myself and understood what he wanted me to do and how I worked with him personally for myself. So while I was in jail, I was again facing time. I just started getting back reading the Bible again, praying more, talking to God, because I believed the same way they talked to him in the Bible, I could talk to him. That's how I believed it. I didn't need a third party, such as a minister or somebody else, to come talk for me. I believed I could talk directly to him. And so I did. And I remember I was praying specifically about my Because a lot of people are like, oh, girl, you finna get a lot of time. Oh, you going to prison. It was people in there my age with lesser charges than me, than I had, and they were going up the road, which is called going to prison. They were getting time, years. And so people are just like, all the jailhouse attorneys are like, oh, girl, you about to, they don't play about that. Cobb County don't play about that. So, I'm hearing their chitter chatter, and I know what I wanted. And so I was praying, I was worried about it. And I remember feeling God asked me to write down exactly what I wanted to see when I went to court that day, for all my stuff. At the final, just the final. When you walk out of here, or when you get all your paperwork and they say this is what you've been charged with and yada yada yada, what do you want to see? What do you think is fair? And so I wrote down, and I got the audacity, baby. I was like, I want all my charges get dropped to misdemeanors. I want time served. I was in there for like 3 months. I said, in Cobb County, you get 2 doubles. Your day counts as 2 for 1. I was like, I want time served, and I knew I was going to have to get probation. And in Cobb County, almost being on probation is almost as bad as just being in prison. It's almost like worse. Like, just take your time instead of having to go on probation, because they're going to bring you back in. But I was like, you know what? I know I'm having to do probation, so let me ask for, I think that's for like 4 years. And I wrote it down, I looked at it, and I said, wow, this seems far-fetched. Especially since I didn't even have a paid attorney. I had a public pretender, so. But I was like, hey, you told me to ask, I'm going to ask. Like, this is what I want to see. And so, I put in my Bible, and I said, God, if you give me this, if I walk out of here with these, like just how this is written down right here, I said, I'll serve you. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And I say that because as a pastor's kid, I knew I had like a calling to do something in my life, but I thought it was going to have to be like being a church. Like, I didn't want to be a minister. I didn't want to have to work in the church. I didn't want to be a pastor or anything like that, or a preacher or anything like that. And I felt like God wanted me to be a speaker, but I didn't. At that time, I correlated speaking with being a preacher. So I made my declaration that day. I put in my Bible. As time came up, I went to, for a full week, I went to, got up early in the morning and went to court. They had my name on a docket, but I wasn't able to see anybody, right? So the entire time I just went to court every morning, and while I was there, I didn't have anything but my Bible with me. I didn't have a book, notebook, paper, anything. I just had my Bible. And so I would read Psalms. I got guided to read Psalms the entire time I was there out loud. And I read the Psalms that had to do with anything about like being set free, being in jail, God showing up and doing amazing things. Those were the ones I read out. I just read them out loud the entire. So for that whole week, I went and sat in them darn holding cells for a whole day, pretty much, and never went to court. And so I did that, and by that next week, Monday, my public pretender called me up, and he said, well, we got a plea deal for you. If you plea out, they'll drop most of your charges to misdemeanors. You keep a felony and 10 years probation. I was like, no. Heck no. No. And I was like, this is what I want. And I showed him. He was like, kind of like, who do you think you are? I was like, take that back to them and tell them this is the only thing I will accept. I said, say it however you need to say it, but this is it. This is the only thing I'm agreeing to. And he looked at me like I was crazy, like the audacity of this little girl to tell me to go tell a judge this is the only thing she gonna accept. But I had that audacity because I know what I asked God for, and I know what he told me. So I said, because if I don't get it, then I'm scot-free. That means I don't have to do my part on what I promised to do for him. So it is what it is. So he went, he presented it, he came back, he was like, they agreed to it. So just sign here. So they agreed to everything I asked for. Everything was dropped to misdemeanor. I signed it, yada yada. I was like, okay, wow. That was my first, like, what I consider that's manifesting. That's what I do to this day, right now. So when y'all see me talking about manifesting, that's what I do. I get in alignment with what I believe God desires for my life, whatever those desires of my heart. You know, they say, delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. So I trust that my desires will line up with his, and if not this, something better. That's how I believe. And so I got what I asked for. And so now I am on the hook to do what I promised to God. I'm going to tell y'all right now, do not make promises to God if you're not going to keep them. There's even multiple scriptures, I think in Ecclesiastes. It's better not to promise God than to promise him and not fulfill it. I'm just telling y'all, don't do it. Because I thought I did. Going on with the story. So, I went, back to court. People couldn't believe it. I went back to the jail. People couldn't believe it. I think I had to do like another 2 weeks or something. I was going to be, and my date would be to be let out. And I went back. No one could believe it. They're like, oh my God, how in the world you get away? How did you do that? And I told them, I was like, I told y'all. I told people what I was believing for. And they thought I was crazy. And I came back and got exactly what I told them I was believing for. So, after that, one of the guards at the jail came up to me and said, oops, sorry y'all for the sunshine. Sorry, sunny. She said, we have some kids coming to the jail to do a tour, specifically Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, middle schoolers, and we want you to come speak to them and tell them your story. And I was like, okay. They're like, I was like, what do you mean? It's like, just tell them how you got here, what happened, give them some advice, what they should do differently, yada yada yada. I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. So when I did that, I realized, I just told my story. It was a lot of the kids started opening up and they told me theirs, and it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. The entire week I saw how my story changed people's lives. And they all came up to me at the end, and the parents came up to me like, oh, thank you. And I saw the power of telling my story and the power of speaking. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. Like, I didn't realize this was available. I thought speaking meant I'd have to be a preacher. I'm just basing it off of what I've grown up around. Sorry, my nose itching. And so I realized, okay, I think I just realized my purpose. Like, this is what I have to do. And I had a dream that night. And in that dream, like the last night that I spoke to the kids, the last day, Friday, and in the dream, I saw myself on it was like a public stage, but it was like huge. and it was filled with people, and I was like, no. Like, in other words, it was showing me like a public speaking calling or ministry, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, oh my God, no, I don't want to do that. Because I'm a private person. Even this being on this internet, I don't like that. But here we are. So, all that to say, I get to the point. What happened after that, I start leading. Most of you know, like, I'm an ordained minister. So I was ministering. I was a youth leader at the church. I had a teen girls ministry for like 10 years. Or about 10 years. I started around about 25. So I've lived multiple lives. I was a youth leader. I started speaking at women's conferences. I started speaking at schools. Also, simultaneously, my career was in sales. I was in corporate sales, event sales. And so I started having to go speak at different conferences, trade shows. So I was speaking both in my ministry and in my career. So this is how, like, this all started unfolding for me. And I thought, oh, cool. Like, I'm fulfilling my purpose. And it's kind of fun. I like it, right? So by the time I got about 35, I was like, okay, look, I'm retiring. Like, I'm Gucci. I've done everything I said I was going to do. I'm cool. Like, I spoke on stages many times. I was at one point, I was like a full-time speaker, and I was just traveling for a long time. That's all I did. Then of course, you know, I'm a sales trainer, so that's speaking, flying, traveling. I overcame, you know, I had a fear of traveling by myself. I overcame all that. Travel, that was my career. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I've fulfilled my purpose. Fast forward to, we're still talking about how to make God laugh, right? I knew that I was supposed to do more, but I kept telling myself, I've already done enough, and you know, I got my kids' life, and I'm married. I got so much stuff to focus on. I can't do XYZ, yada yada yada. Not the end of 2024. I'll spare y'all all the details, but almost everyone in my family, in my children, and my husband, almost everyone died. Almost near-death experiences for all of them. Dead ass serious. I almost had a mental breakdown, a nervous breakdown. If one more thing would have happened, I would have been in a mental hospital. And the entire time, I was just praying, like, God, what is this? Why is this happening? What do you want me to do? Tell me, like, what is it? And I kept hearing about, don't make promises to God that you don't plan on keeping. And I was like, I did everything. I've been serving you since I was 20 years old. I'm retired. And God showed me that I have yet to complete that final part of my purpose and step into where it was that big public stage. And I was like, oh God, bro, okay. You're right. If y'all ever hear, I see a lot of people are like triggered by people saying they're chosen. That's real. Because God calls, it says many are called, but few are chosen. Why? Why are few chosen? Because what God calls you to, most people would not agree to it. had to leave out at 30 years old. I started Dark Night of the Soul. That's where you have to face every fear that you've ever had. If you want to think about, maybe if you want to put it in a biblical context, Job went through the Dark Night of the Soul, where every one of his fears became real. Real. And I had to face every single one of my secret fears. Every childhood wound had to be faced and dealt with. Listen, few are chosen because you have to go through the ringer. It's just like boot camp. Everybody can go through boot camp, but few keep making it up and become official. To be spiritually ranked, high ranking spiritually, those people went through stuff. I need y'all to know that. Many are called, but few are chosen. And they only not chosen because they refuse to go through what is required. To whom much is given, much is required. I know a lot of people look at me and they think I'm just a little spoiled little rich girl and I never went through nothing in life. Pause. Negative. Not the truth. I went through more than most people would be able to live through. But I don't look like I went through that much. And I still still choose to be happy, and I still choose to be optimistic, and I still choose to not let life beat me down, or what I went through beat me down. God has kept my spirit light, even child-hearted. I appreciate that. But if I would have gotten here based on the way, even my final test, I just completed what I think is the final. I don't know, it may not be the final one, but I know it's one of the big ones that I was running from the longest. And I had to give up something that, religious me, because I gave up religion. I know it's people like, well, God wouldn't call you. Yes, he would, because I was religious. And he takes prophets out of the midst of the people so they can hear him instead of hearing what the people say. Church is the people. When God calls you out, it's so he can talk to you, right? Because he's going to require you to do some crazy stuff. Y'all love to be like, oh, yes, I'm true. Oh, God. No, God calls his people to do some crazy stuff. The people who serve him, the ones written about in the book, y'all wouldn't be willing to sacrifice your child? Neither would I. Job lost all his kids, and his business, and his health, and his status. Y'all wouldn't be willing to do that? Neither would I. One of the prophets had to lose his wife so he could mourn in the streets, and Israel could see him mourning and ask, why is he mourning? So he could say, oh, I'm a representation of how God, the Most High, feels about Israel, because they're dead. They're not as alive as they used to be. They're not being who he called them to be. He had to lose his wife and grieve in order to be a testament of how God was feeling. Would you do that? No. Heck no. Right? Jesus, y'all, let's take it to the New Testament if you want to get out the Old Testament. I could literally go through everybody who got a name in the book. In the book of Gomer. Is it Ezra or Gomer? I think it's Gomer. But the prophet, his wife was out cheating on him, and God said, no, go let her, and let her be with all her lovers, and when she come back, you take her bike and love her like it never happened, because that's how I have to show Israel how they've gone and whored after other gods and other nations' gods, and I'm still going to accept them back. And I want that to be a public spectacle of how I'm going to, a public demonstration of how I love them. Y'all would not be willing to do that. That's why many are called, but few are actually chosen. So when somebody get on here and say the chosen ones, trust me, they went through something to even consider themselves a chosen one. Now y'all saying, Sharice, do you consider yourself chosen? Yes, I do. The final test I just had to, I don't know if it's the final, I don't know why I keep saying that. But I've given up. My bad. I had to give up everything that made me who I was at one point in time. And I mean everything. I mean everything. And get ripped down to my core of who I truly am. That means me without the trauma, me without life, or who my parents raised me to be, me who I created myself to be. No, I had to get down to my core soul of who I am with all outside stuff gone. But that means I had to lose physical things and people and titles and situations. Does that mean God? No, he's not going to ask you to sacrifice anything without giving you something still. But I just, a lot of times we always try to say, oh, celebrities, they sacrifice for fame. We all sacrifice. That's something people don't want to hear. You have to give something to get something. When they say, as far as being a Christian, sacrificing your life, we think it just means, oh, I'm going to stop smoking weed. Oh, I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes. Oh, I'm going to stop sleeping around. That's not it. That's a part of it. That's not all. You got to sacrifice. That's not it. That's the basics. You continuously, you're a living sacrifice. That sounds good because y'all think that just means, oh, I'm going to stop it. Man, please. It's more than just going to church on Sunday. That don't make you no living sacrifice. Because you wake up and go to church on Sunday. Because you don't cuss people out when you don't feel like. That don't make you a living sacrifice. God will require some things of you. So when y'all see, I'm not even going to say people, when y'all see me, a lot of people see and they think, oh my God, wow, I want your life. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You wouldn't. That's all I'm saying. Everybody can see the luxury cars, the big house, the this, the that. Yeah, all that look good, but it don't come for free. No, I ain't have to. And that's working for the Lord. That's working for God. Satan, yeah, you work for Satan, he's going to require way more of you. Yes. But God requires sacrifices too. Jesus, yeah, he was the ultimate sacrifice, but he was showing you what you was going to have to do. He sacrificed a lot more than just his body. Most of y'all not willing to sacrifice 3D stuff. So, I go back to the beginning. You want to make God laugh? Tell him about your plans. Because I could have gave him a way easier way for me to get to where I am right now. But I had to go through the fire first. Multiple years of fires. Dark night of the soul. It's like going through the house of mirrors. That always creeped me out as a kid. When you go to the circus and you go through the house of mirrors. I hated that. The dark night of the soul, usually start in your 30s. It's like going through the house of mirrors. You're going to face every version of yourself that you never wanted to face. And not only are you going to have to face it, you're going to have to sit with it and heal it until you mastered it. How long it takes, up to you. It's not for the faint and it's not for the weak. And you think, I thought after I accomplished that, I was like, whoo, I'm Gucci. I'm 40 years old, all right, wow. I went through 9 years of hard, inner work mastery. I thought that was it. Nope. Simultaneously, life is getting great on the outside, but you're going through so much on the inside, but it's still preparing you. But it's not for the faint of heart. So, I don't know why I felt the need to have to tell y'all that, but I did. So hopefully it helped somebody. I guess somebody need to hear it. But Sharice Forrest signing out.